Good evening, and I welcome you to the December 10th meeting of the Wareham Finance Committee. I'll call this meeting to order. Mr. Clerk, could I have a roll call, please?
Roll call. Here are Joan Fonts, Tom Warden, David Hurd, Jeffrey Langen, and Bonnie Jean Couturier.
Thank you. Any citizens' participation at this time? None? On our agenda is our town administrator. He did call me and tell me he would be unable to attend this evening, so we're going to skip right over that. I'm going to bring forward, because I said that I would, take him out of order since he has another meeting to go to. Under Article C here, Community Preservation Fund requests, I'm going to bring forward Mr. Sweat so that he can talk to us about something the school committee would like to request.
Thank you very much. And this is Nicole Russo, who's the captain of the tennis team.
Great.
And as promised, I don't know if you got my email.
I did before everything went haywire, sure.
But this is the actual application that was submitted to the CPC. Oh, you have them, okay.
Good.
Or if you need them.
All righty.
So I will take you through it quickly, and because I'm more interested in your questions than I'm sure you're interested in me telling you what you can read at a later time. The first page is clear enough. I guess I'm the applicant because it was my idea, but it's really on behalf of the Wareham School District, and it has, as you can see from the attached letters of support, it has the full support of the principal of the high school, the principal of the middle school, the superintendent, and the school committee on November, I want to say 19th, but something like that. I voted unanimously in support of it. You will also be able to see that the Board of Selectmen voted unanimously in support of it, I think a little over a week ago. The total cost of the project is anticipated to be $180,000. However, we're only asking the CPC to approve $90,000 because we anticipate $90,000 in private funds. It is intended to come completely from the recreation portion of the CPA as compared to the open space, historic preservation, and affordable housing. On page 2, which gets to the heart of the rationale, page 2 and 3, it's a fairly clear-cut reason for this, with the exception of some very poorly maintained tennis courts over near the Hammond School. Basically, the only courts that exist, other than private courts, of course, are the 3 courts between the middle school and the high school. And the result of that is that A, the community has very few decent courts to play on. B, the education department, both middle and high school physical education departments, have too few courts, so that when they send, as they do, 30 kids out to learn to play tennis as part of physical education, half of them are sitting around waiting to play. And that's not physical exercise. And then, of course, the tennis team, which I've been coaching for the last 10 years, suffers from having the fewest number of courts of any of our opponents in the South Coast Conference and our non-South Coast Conference opponents of Middleborough and New Bedford. The impact of this is really 2 or 3-fold. One is when we practice, we have traditionally gotten anywhere from 15 to 20 kids coming out. It starts out a little higher than that, but over the course of the first couple of weeks, it sometimes drifts down to the mid-teens, say, on average. It is really hard to keep 15 kids active on 3 courts when you're trying to develop a team. In addition, once the season starts, and by the way, that's the by conference rule, the third week in MIAA rule, I should say. The third week in third Monday in March is when we start, as long as the snow isn't on the ground. When we start, after we start playing matches, The result is that, which is about half of the time after the first 2 weeks, what every other school is able to do is to play the equivalent of a junior varsity, so younger kids get to play the opponents from the other teams when they come. What happens with us is we're sometimes finishing our varsity matches and it's almost dark because we have to wait for some of the first 3 matches to finish to put on the next 2 matches because a varsity match is 5 matches. So with the exception of Case, which has 4 courts out in Swansea, all the rest of the teams have either 5 or 6 or more courts. 5 is the ideal number, or the ideal minimum number, I should say, and because that allows you to start all the varsity matches at the same time. And when a varsity match is finished, you can put the younger players on and they get the advantage of competition with other towns. So that's the real community need. To reiterate, to summarize, we've got an insufficient number of courts for the public, insufficient number of courts for the education departments of the middle and the high school. And by the way, they just started tennis intramurals this fall. I was lucky enough to be asked to coach them. We've got some really smart and energetic kids out there who want to play tennis. I had about 25th and 6th graders, and Nicole helped me, along with the number 1 player on the boys' team, and I needed their help because the energy was extraordinary. But that's great. It was really a fun thing to do. So they're coming up, and thanks to the fact that the MIA allows an 8th grade waiver, kids even in 8th grade will be able to participate in varsity tennis, which is not an exception for Wareham. Many schools now have 8th grade participants on their varsity teams, not just tennis, but throughout the sports. Community support, as I said, I've got letters from high school, middle school, athletic directors, school committee, board of selectmen, as well as Nicole wrote a very articulate letter of support. The timeline, we hope to do it this summer. We've got, I attached, well, I guess my credentials. I've been the tennis coach for the girls. The boys coach would be here, but unfortunately he has temporarily left us for a warmer climate. Whether he returns or not, I'm trying to convince him he's done an outstanding job of the last few years, and I am desperately hoping that he gets tired of Jacksonville and decides to come back because the position is not filled. But he would be sitting right there supporting this application if he was still in town. I'm also a member of the MIA Tennis Committee, which is the committee for the Massachusetts Interscholastic Athletic Association. Has a committee for every sport, and we determine the rules. It primarily impacts tournaments, but it's a major force within the state. And finally, I'm also a USTA certified official, which I do because I love the sport. So I think I'm well credentialed, as the term is used, to make sure these courts are used wisely and that it's a good investment for the town. The success factors I've essentially already alluded to. The budget, I purposely went to what I thought and what most people think is the most expensive contractor for this purpose. They also have an outstanding reputation, but they're known to have premium prices. And that is Cape and Island Tennis and Track. The proposal that you see attached to this is $180,000 for the 3 courts. And if anything, I would expect it to go down from there once we go through the procurement process with the town administrator and we get some bids, et cetera. I don't want to imply that this is not an outstanding firm, but they're also a premium firm. And I intentionally chose that because I didn't want the price to go up from here. I wanted, if anything, for the price to go down. So obviously, if it goes down, there will be that much less requested from the CPC and that much less the private funds will have to manage. I guess that maintenance, I guess at this point I'll digress slightly, but it's meaningful digression. I seriously considered going with something called post-tension concrete. The wonderful part about post-tension concrete tennis courts is that they basically don't crack, literally almost a lifetime. So all you're really doing is occasionally repainting them. The problem with post-tension concrete, is that they cost over 50% more to construct. When I did an analysis using their assumptions, it actually did produce a savings on a net present value basis of about $170,000 over 30 years. The problem is when you use the assumptions of people who want your business, you sometimes have to question their assumptions. And when I question their assumptions, the biggest one I question is they basically think that that asphalt courts after 20 years are worthless. Well, since we have asphalt courts that are 23 years old and they're far from worthless, it seemed inappropriate to use their assumption that they would be worthless. Once you assume that they continue to have value, but you put in crack repair periodically, you actually realize that they're overcharging on a net present value basis by about $40,000. So I told them about my assumptions. They asked me one question, which was the discount rate I used on the net present value calculation, and I haven't heard from them since. So the bottom line is, I think this is the best value. Would I love to have post-tension concrete courts? Yes, because you put them down and you forget about them other than a little paint periodically. But bottom line is the best value for the moment is still the asphalt courts that we're used to. Yes, we'll have to do things every 5 to 7 years to make sure they stay in good shape, and the superintendent has committed to making that part of the school budget, so I don't see it as a problem. The only other, I'll say, controversial issue, maybe that's too strong a term, is the fact that we have looked high and low for the best place to put these. And every time you think you've found a great spot, you realize someone else loves that spot for other things. So we have looked at the spot that is the field just to the south of the middle school. It does occasionally get used by the band and the cheerleaders, but it gets used a lot less than the field across the street, which 14 years ago is where the town anticipated putting 5 courts and never did. That field is used by soccer teams. That field is used by a little bit by football teams, and is also used to throw the discus and the javelin. Trying to convince someone that there's a other safe place to throw the discus and the javelin was difficult, because all I could see was javelins going through the air and not wanting them to land in the wrong place. So we gave up on that spot. The high school principal recently thought that behind the high school, where there's a large parking lot, which he doesn't use very much anymore, was a good area. It turns out there's not enough room. I was disappointed because I thought that might be a really great spot. We have exhausted the places to put this other than totally fallow ground along Route 6. Have I absolutely ruled it out? And as I said to Angela Dunham, who got me in the hall recently and said, is it true you're changing the location? She didn't care, actually. She just said, as long as it's a value proposition, we don't really care the location. That's really up to the school district and the town to the extent that it's using town land. The problem with that is it's completely fallow. It's got a lot of trees on it, and the cost of creating the tennis courts would be much greater as compared to flat, already mowed lawn that exists next to the middle school. So we've done a lot of looking at this. There is only really one complication associated with this land, and the cost of that is included in the bid that you have attached. And that is right next to the middle school building is a fire lane. So I've had multiple conversations with the fire chief, including 2 of his captains, and we have come to a tentative agreement that we're going to have to figure out how to make sure that the kids can safely exit without running into a tennis court fence, and that his fire trucks can get across without running into a tennis court fence. We worked out that situation. It's still evolving. I hope you don't see that as your problem. I see it as my problem, meaning we can't go forward if we don't satisfy the fire department. And the site may change, but if the costs change, I'll be back to you for additional approval, assuming you give me approval tonight. But at the moment, I'm just asking for the project as described in the bid and as described in the pictures that I've attached. The budget sheet is very simple, 90 from private and 90 from the CPA for a total of 180. The attached bid is 4 pages, and it's quite complete. The picture that you see, which is the one that looks like this, that's an actual architectural drawing on which I drew the rectangle that would be the 156-foot by 120-foot rectangle. And that is exactly the amount of space that contractors use for 3 courts. I can also tell you that it has to go in that direction. You always put tennis courts north-south, otherwise in various times of the year you can't serve. You might be able to do other things, but you can't serve because the sun's right in your eyes. So north-south is the way all tennis courts are placed. And actually the ones we have are slightly more east-west than I would like. But it doesn't affect us in the spring all that much. It's more a fall problem. And then you see this drawing, which my brother, an architect, using Google Earth and a couple of other things, he managed to actually create something that would show you what the tennis courts actually look like on that south lawn of the middle school. By the way, that little white rectangle is a proposed cranberry bog for the STEAM Academy as part of the middle school. They are quite excited about it. It's something that they are working with the Cranberry Growers Association and their education fund, and it will be fully paid for by those organizations and make a great nature's classroom, so to speak, in the outdoors. That's coming before the school committee on December 17th for our consideration and approval. And then finally you have all the letters of support that I already mentioned. So that's the project in a nutshell, and I'm happy to answer any questions that I might not have answered by my presentation.
Go ahead.
Yes.
And you can also feel free to ask my captain here.
All right. Very good presentation. Thank you. I think it was quite complete. And maybe Nicole can answer this then. On the Google Earth presentation here, you laid out the existing tennis courts. Where are the others located?
If you go just a little bit north or up that way, just a little bit off the page on the top is where the others are. Close enough so I can easily get my exercise, but not take too long to get from one set of courts to the other.
All right,
That's part of the attractiveness of putting them there, because if 5 matches are going at the same time, I don't want to be too far away from the ones that are going on the other courts.
all right, but the proximity is acceptable.
They're acceptable to me, and I'm going to be doing the running. And they're acceptable to the boys' coach. That's a great question. That's why we'd love to have 5 in one place, but we couldn't find a spot.
Thank you.
In reference to your fire road, I'm just, so I understand
Bonnie,
it.
can I just add one more thing? The advantage, though, is that this allows, because they'll be right next to the middle school, it'll be easy for them to actually have middle school intramurals, whereas before they had to go considerably further away from that. So there's actually one, if I'm trying to make lemonade out of lemons, that's great for Dan Minkle and trying to have his physical education for the middle school kids. Sorry, Bonnie, go ahead.
That's okay. I just want to understand this because it looks to me as if here when your dimensions, so this is overlapping what is now the existing fire lane.
Correct.
Is that correct?
That is correct.
So, I mean, are they saying that they can move it in closer to the building?
That was one alternative they gave me, but that's about $20,000 to do it, according to the chief. And the other alternative he gave me was, which I included in the proposal, was to simply create gates wide enough for a fire truck to go through and keep them locked and give him a key. That was his suggestion, literally.
So literally you're putting gates on either end of your...
Yes.
And they're going to drive across your...
I'm not going to. The fire chief will only do so in an emergency. And since, let's hope there are very few emergencies, and that was his idea, I said, works for me.
Okay. It's the only question I had. Anyone else? Go ahead.
This is going to be more about the overall program. You need to get a bangboard area,
A backboard.
a backboard.
Yeah, sorry, I grew up in New Jersey. I guess we call them in backboards in New Jersey.
Well, I mean, you need that as part of your training program.
I had the same thought, yes.
So I think you need more money. The other part of it is, do you have summer clinics for the kids?
Yes.
And what is the attendance there and what's it cost?
We had almost, Nicole participated, I think we had virtually every returning member of the team participating in the summer clinic this year.
I mean, I'm talking about 8, 9, 10-year-olds. So
Oh, yes. So the team participates in clinics that I'm not allowed to legally run, but they exist. And then the Boys and Girls Club tries to run some clinics for younger kids. And I expect the popularity of that to increase. But I personally instructed some kids from the Boys and Girls Club.
Do you have any indoor hitting areas?
The closest indoor hitting is Marion Indoor Tennis Club.
But if you had a bang board or whatever you called it,
Backboard.
within the Viking, within that ex-maintenance building, ex-Boys and Girls Club, is there any room in there for it?
Interesting.
Where the weights are now?
Interesting
A
question.
couple of alleys?
I don't know the answer to that question.
Is there a point to this question as far as this project goes?
I mean, I think you're cheating yourself if you've got that much interest among students. We ought to be able to provide the facilities that.
Well, you should know that, and Nicole is participating in this as well. Marion Indoor Tennis runs clinics from October through March for kids of all ages. Now, yes, it's true that there's some costs associated with it, but it's a whole lot better than a bang board because you're actually getting instruction while you're doing it. And in addition, the high school boosters helps defray the cost for kids. So I think it's fair to say that if anybody really wants to do it, they can do it.
Okay, then one final question. As an environmentalist, how about is there any tennis court surface that drains through the court rather than off the court?
Clay. Other than that, no. I mean, that's the beauty of a clay court, of course.
The football fields do now drain down through.
Oh, I thought you were talking about tennis courts.
I am talking about tennis
okay.
courts, but I mean, the surfaces,
Yeah.
there are surfaces that drain.
The interesting thing about the asphalt courts that we have now is one of the reasons after 23 years they're still considered to be some of the better courts we have in the conference is because they have a slight bow to them. And so the water doesn't sit on them, it rolls right off, and that prevents much more cracking than would ordinarily occur. So, but I have never heard of there is talk about putting, I know this is getting technical, Bonnie, stop me anytime. There's talk about putting a slice through the asphalt between each court as a way of reducing the amount of cracking that occurs, much as you might see that in cement, a large area of cement. But I've heard two different contractors, one saying that's a great idea and the other saying it's a lousy idea. Okay. So the bottom line is I've never heard of a porous surface, but I do think getting the water to run off, which is what our courts now do, is part of the reason you can maintain them more cost effectively.
Good. It's a good program.
All right, I'm going to give the floor to Donna. She has a question.
No, I've been following it in the papers, Jeff, and I think it's great. I think it's really good, and I think, looking into the boys' club or girls' club or anything it's not in the realm right now. We're taking baby steps. We want to get these courts built for these kids because we've never had enough courts, never. And I applaud everything that you guys are doing, and I applaud you, young lady, with the tennis team, and go for it. And I think if you get the support of the tennis court people out there too, the kids out there, they're the ones that are going to make the people at the town vote the way they should vote.
Thank you, Donna.
Okay.
Next year, lighting.
Well, funny thing,
With a chair.
there are lights right there at the middle school having nothing to do with tennis. But if you put a couple of bulbs in there, that was purely accidental. So they exist. I wouldn't want to pay the electric bill for them, but that's another story.
That's interesting, utilizing empty space that, like you said, wasn't used for much but cheerleading classes and things like
That's
that.
right.
The band is very small, and I'm assured that they could find other places for the band. You're going to make somebody unhappy when you take land that exists, but I think we're making the least number of people unhappy by that spot.
Oh, that's good. Okay, I will entertain a motion in favor of allowing Mr. Sweat to go before the Community Preservation Committee to seek funding for a town project.
So moved, Madam Chairman.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Good luck.
Thank you very much. And I would also greatly appreciate sometime between now and next Wednesday, if you could write a simple, just like Alan Slavin did, a simple memorandum to show that I have the support of the Finance Committee before I go before the CPC, that would be greatly appreciated.
Okay, sounds good.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much. Have a good night.
Thank you. You got that? Okay, I am going to go back up here. I have one member of, one of our applicants for the open position on the FinCom is here to introduce himself. Mr. Bailey, would you like to come forward? I'm not sure where the other applicant went, or because of the email crash, I don't think I've gotten anything from anybody, so whether he had some other commitment, I'm not sure. But this is Mr. Ellis Bailey. If you want to introduce yourself and tell the committee a little about yourself.
My name's Ellis Bailey. I moved to Wareham about 4 years ago. My wife and I moved from New York, although we're native to Maine, so New York was a big change for us. We bought her grandparents' place after they passed away. They lived there since, well, he built it in the 70s and lived there ever since. And so there's family in the area. We have some connection to the town. After the Prop 2.5 election, I kind of got interested in what makes the town tick financially and what I might be able to do to help. And, you know, so I came to FinCom meetings and just sat back and listened, started reading more of the local papers, and just decided I was interested in being on the Finance Committee. Job-wise, I work over at Makepeace. I'm the tax CPA. I don't expect that to get in the way too much of being on the Finance Committee, but obviously there'll be a few conflicts here and there. I am a CPA. I did undergrad as math. I'm a numbers guy. That makes the world makes sense to me through numbers. I can build a hell of a spreadsheet. I'm renovating my house. That's my second job, and that's kind of winding up now, so I feel like I have time to do this. Thank God that's over. What a mess. Beyond that, we have, well, he's going to be 3 next week, 3-year-old son, big goofy dog, and you know, we plan to stay here for a while, so.
Madam Chair.
Go ahead, Donna.
Couple of questions. First of all, I'm glad you came to Wareham, and I'm glad you applied for the position here. Whereabouts are you living right now? I mean, where's the family home that you bought? I'm just
We're in Parkwood on Crab
Oh.
Cove Terrace.
good.
Very, very quiet this time of year. I've got one neighbor, and the rest are summer people. It's mostly cottages and a few houses.
Where from Maine are you from? Because I'm from Maine, because I'm always
Oh, I
interested.
grew up way out in the woods, up in Enfield, Maine. It's about 50 miles north of Bangor.
I'm Bucksport, babe.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, I'm from Bucksport, Maine, so way out in the woods.
My wife grew up in Massachusetts North and South Portland, Maine.
Okay.
So I figure Maine
South
pretty
Portland.
much starts at LL Bean.
Yeah,
and north.
Freeport, yeah, we don't call that Maine there.
Yeah, that south
That's,
is,
that,
you know.
all right, well, thank you very much, and thank you for applying, and that's all I have to say, Madam Chair.
Anybody else? Questions? David, go ahead.
Yes, thank you for applying and coming before us. Have you done any other volunteer work for towns in your?
I haven't. You know, I was in New York, and you know, it's not
Yeah.
really a town to volunteer for the city.
In the city?
Yeah, we were in Queens, right across from the UN. If you see a picture of the UN across some water, we were kind of right in that neighborhood. It's an Italian neighborhood, a lot of nice families there. So it was fun to live there for a while, but after a while,
Not so much. It's
Yeah.
good to have people who are coming into town who are interested in the town and the town affairs.
yeah.
I applaud you for that.
Right. I have done some volunteer work, but I was a big brother for 4 years. But nothing for towns.
Anyone else? Okay. Well, I thank you for coming to
Thank you.
talk to us, okay?
Thank you. Thank you
Thanks.
for wanting to do it.
I gave you guys a copy of both applicants too. We'll talk about that later. Let's see, okay, let's go back to the top here. I evidently have a bill. What's my bill? I need approval of a bill for $21 for our legal posting. I got a motion for
I'm gonna make a
approval?
motion that we pay the $21 bill.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Okay, we paid a bill. Let's see. I guess do I have somebody here from Open Space Committee? Hi. You want to come forward?
How's it going?
I'm good.
I'm Joe Liggett from Open Space,
Welcome.
Brian Litchfield, also from Open Space.
and I think you know why we're here.
It's the Oakdale Playground Project.
Yes, so we can go before CPC for a grant for $45,000 for rehab in that area.
Did you actually get a copy of that? You got a copy of that?
Our chair said,
Nope, I didn't get that. Definitely up, that was been after the crash.
is that what happened today?
Something happened. All I know is I can't get in. It's what?
It's working now?
Wasn't working when I was home half an hour ago.
Okay.
Okay, want to give us a rundown? Because we don't have that.
Okay, this is, project name is Oakdale Playground Rehabilitation, and it's for $45,000. It's to rehabilitate that area down there, and the total cost is gonna be coming out to about $49.50. This is estimated, but that's taken in consideration about $4,500 in in-kind, sweat equity and stuff like that with the community down there. Needs and goals is pretty much basic. It's a neighborhood playground. It's pretty much it's gone beyond maintenance. It's basically needs to be rehabbed and stuff like that between fencing and stuff like that. I can give you a quickie rundown on estimated costs on the individual things if you would like.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, I heard that.
We're all ears.
Okay.
Yeah, lovely.
The basketball court repainting and repairs to hoops is about $3,000. $2,000 for relocating child swing set, merry-go-round, and seesaw closer to the monkey bars. $3,500 to provide concrete slab under the pavilion. $500 for lowering a zip line, installing steps for various ages to be able to use it. Another $3,000 for repairing other playground equipment there, which might be nuts, bolts, maybe a little bit of paint, swapping out dangerous parts and the like. There's gonna be $5,000 for 2 new playground pieces of equipment, a 10-spin and a twin rider. On the basketball courts, we're looking at $3,000 for 2 15-foot-long 3-row bleachers, similar to what we have out here. $3,000 for 3 park benches by the play structures. $3,000 repair the fence around the playground, because right now there's holes through it and stuff like that, rusting and things like that. $500 for a solar motion light down there by the pavilion, which that'd be helping for security and stuff like that down there. $7,000 to create a parking area for roughly about 10 cars. $3,000 to extend the backstop around the baseball field and the parking area. $3,000 to replace soil in the right field and remove vines, roots, and regrade and reseed that area. $2,000 to install new volleyball poles and netting. $5,000 to create a walking trail around, inside the perimeter, but around the whole play area. And $2,500 to install a small rock climbing wall. And like I said, the other funding is going to be coming from just the sweat equity of the people in the neighborhood. It's a very engaging neighborhood. They're very committed to this, and they've already had several cleanups. They meet regularly. They got a community organization, plus they come to open space meetings and the like. So the success of this project is pretty much already been shown with just their involvement.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Donna.
My question is the playground equipment. I know you've mentioned a lot of the baseball field and the basketball courts and that. Is the playground ADA accessible?
Well, one of the pieces, actually ADA accessible with minor grading, packing soil and stuff like that, it already is. As far as the equipment goes, I believe this 10-spin is basically that is for handicap impaired.
As far as I know, the playgrounds are supposed to have a certain material on the ground.
Oh, there
that
is
is
gonna be-
accessible, that a child that
Yeah.
might need.
Well, this is a grass field, so it's pretty.
So it's
flat
not
and stuff.
ADA accessible. None of this is going to be ADA accessible.
I don't think any of them, but that's something that we can look into, definitely. Because this one of the equipment that they're gonna get is for handicap.
Basically, you should be eligible for more grants or something if it's
Sure.
ADA. And if you're going to do a playground
Mm-hmm.
in this day and age, I know when I had to do them in the project, they all had to be ADA compliant.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I'm just wondering if
Well, basically, when you're talking about the projects, I think you're already talking on, you're already dealing with a concrete or some other hard surface to begin with. Where we're dealing with neighborhood ones, they're mostly grass, sand, and stuff like that. But that's definitely something to be considered. And you will see us 2 more times before we go to town meeting.
Anybody else? Tom?
The big book,
The big book.
what does the big book say about Oakdale? What does it say about this particular playground?
Pretty much what I just told you.
Yeah.
Is that what it is?
It said for the most part, it's in very good shape. It just needs a little bit of rehab and,
So they've had input into the recommendation?
yes.
Actually, everything on here is by their recommendations, and that of the neighbors down there. I brought 2 just in case.
This is from that,
From the report.
from the report?
Yes.
And like I say, home tax too.
so Oakdale down to off Sandwich Road, Avenue A, Cherry Street, all those in there.
By Wareham EMS.
Yeah, there you go. EMS.
I
Right?
think if you take that road, you wouldn't know it if you
Apple
hadn't
Street.
gone down there.
Ready? Okay.
I just,
Go.
Madam, may I just,
Go ahead.
just one more second. I'd just be shocked if they were going to give you the funding without it being ADA accessible.
Well, like I say, this is just to get us going so we can go before CPC.
Mm-hmm.
When we come back the next 2 times before this board, this might not even look like anything like what you see now.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the town owns this, correct?
Yes.
It's town property, but it's pretty much just used by the local neighborhood children. is
Pretty
that-
much like all the neighborhood playgrounds in this town.
But there is parking for people to go in there if they wanted to?
There's no
It's-
parking currently.
There's limited,
Oh, this
along
one.
the road.
yeah.
Yeah.
Anybody else, questions?
Just to go back to the big book for just an instant,
I should
That
have
had-
brought one for you.
that
Tom.
has a $700,000, is that what it is, for the total rehab of all 27
I
playgrounds?
really
in
don't
town?
want to get into that, because it depends on how you look at the numbers,
Right.
whether you're gonna do the base minimum, or you're gonna go full tilt
Yeah.
Cadillac plan, so,
They gave two different options as an example on Shangri-La in itself. One, just to completely demolish it and leave it, and another to completely demolish it and build a new playground. The construction of a new playground was $350,000.
so actually, it's quite deceiving if just coming up with a figure of.
Right.
Now, this is their, let's just clean everything up opinion?
Yes.
Is that the point of this? So total, primary opinion costs $10,000, right? Then it's a secondary opinion cost $17,000. Okay, that's just to clean up anything that broke in and, things like that. Not any improvement, that's just to make it safe.
Mhm. Which we've already got the money for doing that stuff on these other playgrounds that was passed at town meeting.
Right.
To go around, take care of all the safety concerns and stuff like that.
No, their number on that was for improvements, but they were minor
Oh.
improvements. They were to leave everything existing and, just put a slab underneath the pavilion.
Any other questions? I'll entertain a motion.
I make a motion to approve the presentation that we had tonight for Oakdale Playground and to forward it to the CPC.
May I hear a second?
Second?
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? One abstention.
I'm not opposed, I just want to make sure it's done right and correctly, and it's going to benefit all the residents. So, I don't know, he says he's going to be back in 2 more times, so I'll vote in favor too.
Right now, we're just doing that pro forma requirement that it's got to
Yeah.
appear before the selectmen
Just so we
and
can
the
go.
Correct.
finance committee, so you can go to the CPC.
Right,
Yeah.
we're just trying to get it so that we can get it on the spring town meeting.
We
Like I
get,
say, you'll
I
see
mean,
us
we
2 more
really
times.
get mean in the second time around.
Okay.
All right, thank you, folks.
You have a playground, it's supposed to be accessible, especially.
Merry Christmas, guys.
All righty, next we will have Mr. Harbor Master himself. He's going to talk to us about a boat ramp.
For the summertime, huh?
Oh, lovely. I'm going to share. Wow, that's like major stuff.
This is, the thick packet actually has, here's the laptop cover sheets from when I gave you this one. This is still on that one also. The thicker copy actually just has, the notice of intent that was filed with the program. I went before the Board of Selectmen to discuss the onset boat ramp, which is 27 East Boulevard. The ramp is in irreparable condition. It's to the point where we're going to have to take some actions on either, if it's a safety issue, we're going to have to close it because we can't fix it. But we've been trying to get funding to replace what we have. I've been able to secure funds through the Bouchard oil spill settlement to the tune of about $67,500. We applied for $75,000. So that will be put directly towards the replacement of the ramp, as well as the funding I'm requesting through CPC. The ramp was built in 1962, opened 1963. There has not been much maintenance since 1963 on the ramp, so it's undermined. The original build did not put I want to call it a washout pad, so when boats are powering up, it undermines the base of the ramp. So we've got about a 24-inch drop at the end of the concrete, and we have problems with vehicles backing down because they don't know where the line is. They get stuck, and the next thing, their car slides in, and it turns into a mess. Where this would basically mimic. It wouldn't go to the size of like Tempest Knob, but design-wise, if you go to the base of Tempest Knob, it actually has a stop curb that goes across, and it has a pad. So if a vehicle does roll, it does hit this and stop it from proceeding into the bay. So the ramp replacement is basically what you see is what we're going to replace. The ramp is going to be 100 feet complete. We're not touching the parking lot. We're not doing any alterations to the grounds there. I know there's some concerns of it being decree property, but the boat ramp does fit within the guidelines of the onset decree. So it's and we actually found some more information backing that statement from town council back in 1986 today. So it would obviously have to go out to a full bid process through Mr. Sullivan and town council. We've paid for the engineering, so the next steps would be going to DEP, Waterways, Army Corps of Engineers to finish off the permitting and securing funding. I'm sorry my voice is off tonight.
Go ahead, Tom.
How does this fit into the CPC?
And one of the pages, I believe if you go into the thick packet, there is a copy that gives you a breakdown of the CPC guidelines. And in the third column of that breakdown that's in your packet, it's actually black and white highlighted. It was actually pink, but I don't know if it should be in your packet.
I can't read. I mean, just go ahead and tell me.
It's under recreation, isn't it?
I mean,
It's under recreation, and it's
it's a recreation thing?
yes, it's because it's access to the waterways.
Okay, all right.
I know it's
I mean,
in there, but I don't wanna-
that's all I need to know.
It is in that
That's all I
packet.
need to know.
It's very generalized wording on what the community preservation breaks it down as, but it falls into that third category
It's always been a wreck.
of the packet.
Wreck for years.
No, Mr. Buckminster, thank you for coming before us. As someone who's used that ramp, it definitely is in need of repair. And as you said, there is a big drop-off at the end, and at low tide, it's easy to get down there.
Yes.
So this is something that is required, and as it's something that is for recreation, and recreation is an important part of Wareham, I'm definitely in favor of this.
Thank you. It's it really is a lifeline into the waterways and onset. We don't have another ramp at all, with the exception of Tempest Knob in Wareham that is useful. The Swiss Beach boat ramp or Swiss Neck boat ramp is not really a ramp. I'm not sure how it ever was declared that, because it's just not accessible or easily accessible. And we have a boat ramp that's in a rest area on 195. So if this ramp closes, we're forced to either go to Tempest Knob and come all the way around Stony Point Dike. And for boaters that have been out there, they know it's pretty treacherous to make that run on some days. And your next option is having to go to Bourne and spend money on utilizing their ramp. And I'd rather keep it here. It's for public safety.
One other question: is this used for safety by the not only the harbor master, but also the fire department?
Fire department does use it. We use it. Yeah, especially this winter, this time of year. Fire department has all of their boats out of the water, so they're at the mercy of launching. And what happens is you have a boat ramp basically next to a fire station. Their only other option, if this closes, is having a key that they can access either the yacht club or go to Onset Bay Marina and to utilize one of their ramps privately. And that puts in another factor of something happens down there on private property, there's some concerns that I think that they need to stay with something that's close to them.
Is there any kind of fee for using the ramp or anything like
There
that?
is no fee. We don't charge a fee at all. Even at Tempest Knob, we charge a fee strictly for parking. And obviously with the parking program in onset that's going on, it falls under the vehicle being charged to park, so they'd have to buy a sticker to park within the marked zones. So depending on, into the future, if they expand parking, obviously if they came up with another lot, I would like to see them factor in some form of trailer parking into a new lot if they built it into onset somewhere. But right now, the fee that's collected is strictly for a vehicle being left.
With a trailer? So there's
Yep,
trailer
correct. It
parking.
covers one vehicle attached.
You mentioned that if we didn't have this, you'd go to Bourne and have to pay for that. Do they have a fee?
They do.
Yes,
I
they do.
believe it's $15.
Is that a
Well,
a permit for the summer or something like that?
I don't know what they have for permits. The town of Bourne I give them a lot of credit. They own a few things that every town should own. They own 3 marinas, they own a dump, and they're all cash cows. So if there's ever a marina in Wareham, that we should probably look at it. But anyway, they own their marinas, and they have a marina manager, and they factor it into as part of their operation as there's a launching fee at the ramp. But all those monies are staying with the marinas and operating it, so it just goes back into the fund.
Do you gentlemen like to take a peek? What's the lifespan of that after you're done?
You probably get 40, 50 years. It's a precast ramp. Some of the things that you always want to take a look at with a precast is the anchoring system. And most of them are galvanized and they're subsurface. So once it gets in that, I'll say unoxygenated zone, there's not a lot of breakdown of the metal that they use to anchor it. So it's usually you want to check the actual fastener heads for rot. I mean, it's almost what they did at Swiss Neck, and there's no damage to them so far. So I think your lifespan, 50 years with a maintenance plan, which was something that we should put in place with everything we have.
Good.
Just beyond, is there any other towns besides Bourne what do the Cape Towns do as far as fees and so forth?
Town of Marion is strictly a resident ramp. Because they kept it in town with town funds, they can dictate everything that takes place with that ramp. Mattapoisett accepted waterways funds through the state, I believe, so that opens them up to anything. But pretty much everybody charges parking. Parking is where the money comes in for it. Like with Tempest Knob, we have an agreement that the town entered into with the state where we have to charge a $50 season pass or a $5 per use or $5 per day parking fee that we charge. You can launch a boat all day long for free. It's just once the vehicle goes into a park position, that's where they want you to start paying for it. So other towns that pay, Fairhaven's got one that it's almost the same system as what we have at Tempest Knob. So our parking is not at the onset ramp, unfortunately. They have to go to the roads. So
What about the Cape Towns? I mean,
I'd have to get you a list of what every town charged.
might be worth it, because
Yeah, it would be. I mean, you're looking at charging to use the property and then charging to park a vehicle, 2 different creatures. So
money's money.
it's a fine. I trust me, I understand.
Well, then you've got.
$5 is pretty
Bourne's
cheap.
got somebody, you're paying labor to have somebody sit out there and check people in. So, I mean, he's running a marina and everything else out there, that's a little different. There's somebody always there.
Trying for accountability of having a person to pay to launch their boat is a nightmare. We have accountability because they leave their cars behind and they fill out their information, and then we go and check license plates to stickers, license plates to the envelopes they put in or the stickers that they have. So we get them in parking citations on that end of it. So it works out for us. I mean, it seems to be working. And now that we are gaining some funds because now there is parking required in those areas to leave the trailers. So now they either have to buy a non-resident sticker, resident sticker, the onset parking pass. One of those stickers has to be purchased to be able to park your car there.
Yeah.
So,
When was the last time we raised the rates?
actually, I think we adjusted it as a combination sticker back, I want to say 2011. somewhere in there.
5 years, might be time.
We're right in line with other towns.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, on some of them we
The
are.
Cape is a lot more.
Town of Bourne is actually, I believe it's $15 or $30, and they have probably about 15 sites that you can use for a sticker. Where we've got
I'm just
3.
thinking from part of the Cape I'm familiar with.
Yeah.
You're talking about $8 or $10 a day, $75 a week.
This is Wareham.
Yeah.
This is not the Cape. This is not
Yeah,
the Cape, my
it's-
friend.
We have to be very cautious on what we do for
Exactly.
fee increases.
It's money.
Reasonable, yeah. We have to find creative ways, but I don't want to hammer them.
I agree with you.
What about, I mean, I know that that ramp's been trouble for a long, long time. So, I mean, some of the unusability of it has kept, I think, some trouble down too. So how are you going to combat, people wanting to throw the jet skis in for an afternoon or zooming in and out of that nice, quiet harbor in there?
Jet skis are registered motorboat. They have that. If you're going to stop a jet ski, and we have, I firmly feel that, in my opinion, the regulations that we have set to not allow a jet ski to launch on a piece of property that was dedicated to the public for use, we're violating what the decree is.
Oh, I'm not saying
And
you
they have the right, just like every other boat that's out there, to operate on the waterways. And jet skis, as much as everybody dislikes them, I mean, they've given themselves a bad beginning because they were smoking. They were 2-stroke engines. They were loud. It was like having a Harley Davidson racing up and down your waterways. They've now gone to 4-stroke engines where you can't even hear them running. They're fast, and unfortunately, where the state hasn't stepped up to the plate to actually require people to go and get boating safety certificates or a driver's license to operate, you can have a person go out and buy a 65-foot powerboat, which can raise total havoc as well, under the same guidelines as buying a jet ski. It's horrendous, but we have no control over it. Some states they've tightened up. New Hampshire, Connecticut, Florida, I believe, they all require specific training now and classes that you have to take to prove that you can operate a boat. It's a great idea, but we live in a state where most of your policymakers are boaters, and they want to have fun out there too.
My just concern is that inner harbor. I mean, when the tide goes out, there's not a whole lot of water left up there, It's,
Yeah,
I
I feel for the neighbors too. I mean, I know they're in an area that is a highly used area. It's a boat ramp. It's if the town wants to come up with some kind of regulations and look into time frame sunset to sunrise to sunset or something like that. I mean, the other option is like every other place. If you've got somebody that's rowdy, call the police, get them down there. So.
My objection with jet skis isn't, people say, well, that's a no-wake zone. Well, it's a no-wake zone all the way up. And their concept is that a jet ski doesn't put up a wake. Yeah, it does.
It's a combination of a wake and a speed. It's,
Yes.
If you're throwing a wake, you've got to reduce your speed.
gotta reduce speed.
Because hull displacement is a major issue for your wake too. So I mean, we've got some boats that just click into gear and they're throwing a wake. We stop larger boats depending on what they have for draft. If they're pushing water, it goes down to the point where they're engaging and disengaging in gear to keep their wake down. So they just turn a large wheel. They push a lot of water, and they rock you to death. So.
Any other questions? Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second?
Second?
This is for approval.
Approval to
go to-
send
Go
Mr.
ahead.
Buckminster to
To
the
CPC.
CPC. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Passes. Good luck.
Thank you. And also, it was approved by the selectmen too. I know Mr. Sweat addressed that, but I didn't put that forward in the email.
We essentially are under-ramped. Is that what you're saying? So we need a recommendation as to where to,
I'm on the last part. I'm sorry.
we need a recommendation as to how we can increase our ability for launching.
More ramps?
More ramps.
Well, if we could find a place that they actually could. I mean, right now it probably isn't the best place for a boat ramp because you're restricted by bridge and
Yeah.
you can't get the pitch that you want to really do a launch of a good-sized boat. But point me in the direction of some property. I haven't found it yet, but
What about the parking area of the sand spit that extends to the right on the, as you look out on the water, to the right end of the
Shell
beach?
Point, down
Yeah.
Shell Point, that area.
Yeah.
I think you would have a problem just getting around West Boulevard with a boat trailer, and it's, some of our stuff. Our boat is pushing 13 feet high, so it's to try and get down there wouldn't happen. I'd rip everything off the top. So it's we got an open area. Like I said, if a marina ever came around, something where the town could actually utilize it as a moneymaker and still be able to offer these
We ought to be able to
kind of
sell it.
services. So, thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thanks, Gary.
All right. No discussion over, now that Mr. Selectman is here. I didn't get anything back because my email crashed, so I wouldn't know. But a possible joint session between the Board of Selectmen, the school committee, and the finance committee. Did we get anything back on that? Okay.
I followed up with Kim, she's supposed to get back to all, but that's just an initial meeting between the three chairs and the two, the superintendent and the PA that set an agenda first.
Okay.
And as I mentioned, the school committee is meeting this week on Thursday all day, doing the all-day budget session.
Did y'all get that?
You will be getting an invitation.
We will?
You will.
Yeah, you will be getting an invitation. They do this every year. The school
Next
committee
Thursday?
holds an all-day discussion on their budget. Okay, it would be nice to have, a couple of FinCom members there. Who, I'm
Oh.
sorry, refresh my memory as to whose school committee, is that you, Donna? Donna and,
School
I'm
committee.
trying to think. Is it
Not
Marilyn?
you?
No, Marilyn Jordan.
Yeah, but not
is
you.
Marilyn? Because I don't have my list with me. I thought it was gonna be two people on, and Dominic. Okay.
Dominic's now with the Upper Cape. He's, oh, they're gonna-
Yeah, I thought two people
Maybe it
were
was
gonna
Tom.
split it. We
I'd like-
definitely,
I'd like to go to that, if you wouldn't
When
mind,
is it?
Madam Chair.
it's next Thursday. We'll get an invitation in email for that. They usually hold it at the middle school
Yeah.
auditorium.
Usually.
Middle school library?
The last time we did one, we did it in the library.
On the library,
Yeah.
okay,
It should be in the invitation.
yeah.
No, wait a minute.
And they go over the budget, they talk about it, I mean, it's really an all-day sort of workshop.
They have every principal come in,
Yep.
and they have to go over their budget with the superintendent. And
I don't know that we're going to be able to also go into number E here, the Springtown meeting calendar. Because of the charter change, the school committee's budget doesn't have to be out till January 5th.
Mhm.
However, I don't see where we're going to have time to meet with them jointly during this festive holiday season. Huh? That's not
No.
gonna happen. Okay, our next two Wednesdays are both holidays. They're gonna have their all-day session next Thursday. And then you've got two holiday Thursdays after that. So, I don't see where we're gonna have much chance of that. I mean, as much information that we can get from this, their meeting on Thursday, will be interesting. They
You
usually
will
do
get-
this, and then I'm trying to think, do they present their budget to the TA and then do a presentation to the public, or the other way around, I forget.
Oh, we've changed the dates, because they actually were always supposed to technically give the budget to the town administrator 20 days at least before December 15th, which they never did.
Yeah,
So we were always out of compliance.
yeah, because they would usually attend another presentation at that point, and I'm trying to remember which order that comes in.
I think this one comes first, Madam Chair, and then they do the public hearing afterwards.
hearing.
You will get all the intricacies at this joint meeting that you will find out exactly. You'll have a good handle on it that day.
So I don't see us really getting together, all three committees getting together. We were trying to get at least the chairs of the three committees to have a discussion, and we're still gonna try to pursue that if we can. So Kelly did provide us with the draft, and please note this is draft, stamped all over it. It's not written in stone. We don't wanna get her in trouble.
We'll be working on this tomorrow.
Okay.
Ask Kelly to work that together. We'll do ours and try and hash them out.
Did you give us copies
We'll
of the
be on
draft?
selectmen's agenda for the first week of January.
Thanks.
I think it's the 6th.
Okay. Yeah, so we're looking at Tuesday the 6th as the Board of Selectmen establish all dates for completion of the warrant for town meeting. And then you go into February. Kelly says that it appears we're gonna have a little more time to work on it than actually goes to print, which will be kinda nice, hopefully. So as these dates become more, written in stone, we'll have a calendar work up of, how we're gonna meet these. I don't see us having another meeting in December. Does anybody disagree with me on that?
No.
No.
Bah, humbug.
Unfortunately, yeah, there isn't a lot that we can do about that, before. So we could, aim for that Wednesday, the 7th, as being our first meeting to get back together. And get, I don't know whether we will have an idea of what the school committee's budget is going to be. Obviously, I'm sure we will have some idea if they actually turn it in on time. But we
I
should,
recommend that we do meet on the 7th.
on the 7th of
It could be a
January.
short meeting if
Yeah.
there's nothing there, but I think we ought to plan on meeting on the 7th.
All right, let's plan on that. As
When-
our
last
stepping
year-
off point for the first of the year. Go ahead, Jeff.
When last year did the 5-year plan come together? That, you had a
The
view,
capital plan, David, I should say,
The capital plan is being put together as we speak. We're a little bit behind on our schedule also, but we are meeting actually next Tuesday to try to finalize that. It was, at least in the previous, what do we? I believe previously it was supposed to be done by the 15th of December.
but
Are you talking about,
I'm
the
not talking about
budget
the capital
projection
plan.
forward? The
yeah,
town
the
budget
projection forward, because that was the key for the proposed joint meeting that we started that day and that didn't have, which was this year next year rather, thought we were gonna be 600K in the hole, but,
town administrator's budget, we should have.
yeah, I know, that's why
On the
when,
25th. What's happened, the capital planning budget is required by charter to be there 30 days before the town administrator's budget is presented. So they will have their capital plan into the town administrator.
Can you come to use the
Speak up.
mic? I'm getting yelled at.
By charter, the capital planning committee has to submit their budget 30 days before the town administrator does his. He will then take that budget and decide what he's gonna bring forward and what he's not. So even though capital planning has a list, it's just basically a list of what they would think we should do. It's his decision by charter, what he brings forward, what he doesn't.
is that key to putting together that lookout for the next 5 years?
No, they put it out there, they list the years and spread it out there, and then they go back and revise it depending what comes forward.
Yeah, because that was the key thing that we were all getting at, was the fact of the mounting deficits. with the plans and
Unfortunately, every year what we need versus what we have available for cash is a major difference. The number keeps rising.
I think what you were talking about, Jeff, is we did the 5-year projection going out along with the budget, the current budget year.
yes, that's
Yeah.
what I'm
That
talking
was
about.
when we were doing, last year,
Best
or the
worst.
year before.
Best
yeah.
worst case scenario.
Yeah, the best worst scenario,
been doing
as
those.
far as with the Proposition 2.5 override. It was meant to show people this is how it's going to be one way, or this is how it could be another way. We did talk about keeping that 5-year projection as part of the budget presentation, so that people could see what what you're voting on this year, what that was going to happen in the 5 years
Right.
forward for that. So I don't know whether Derek will include that 5 years with his budget
I
this
believe-
year. I think that's entirely up to him, but I think he did indicate that he wanted to show what those meetings were going forward.
We'll be asking for that, just so you know.
I think it's a good thing.
Yeah, I guess I would want to see that, because when I look at what we have to do for town meeting, at least my approach when I look at anything that comes before us is how does it fit into that?
Right.
With the idea also, I think it's fair to ask some tougher questions, which we'll get on to later, than we may have been asking about the impact of various things that come before us on the financial situation of the town, which was getting by that plan and the flat plan that got passed, essentially, by not passing the override, was it is $3 million that we got to find between now and the end of that, assuming that the assumptions are still the same. And that's the first thing: is are those assumptions still the same about the pensions and about all the other things that were the mounting fixed cost that the town was facing? Because it's, when someone comes before us and says, for example, I want to take XYZ parcel and put it in conservation, that's fine. You're taking it out of the taxes, though. And so it's a fair question to ask, how much is it? It's like when we looked at the proposal for the filling station, that the discussion was, how much is it going to add to taxes? Somewhere, when I look at it, I think the rock and the hard place is the great way to say, and I feel as a member of this committee, I got to ask some tough questions, and maybe start saying no to stuff, or we got to start raising fees, or we got to start doing something.
We're already doing the fees. We've gone through all our fees in the last year and raised them.
Yeah, well, I'm going to be the devil's advocate and saying it's probably not enough. I know that I won't have support from everybody, but
You can only go a certain, the state has rules,
okay,
regulations.
the state
et
has
cetera.
rules, but
We're at the max of where we can be right now, just so you know. We've gone through all of it in the past 12 months.
really, so I can get a dump sticker for $15?
The dump stickers, if you're a senior, yes.
Yeah, whereas other towns I've lived in, it cost me $80.
We also have a special thing because we're an initial member with CMAS.
Which is probably, based upon what's going on in the Cape, going to go broke in the next
Cape
few years.
Well, that's the Cape, it has nothing to do with
Well,
us.
it's losing its contracts,
Well, I know, but
so, is it,
I understand.
yeah, I'm a numbers guy too, and basically I still look forward for 5 years. Having a one-year thing doesn't, to my mind, do you much good.
Well, the 1 year is what you have to do for the
I
budget.
know, I understand
but
what the law says.
You have to go 5 years out to
Yeah.
know what's going on.
Yeah,
I
that's why,
think Jeff was, your consistency of showing that 5 years so that you can see a change in 1 year, what the consequences are going forward, is very important. It's not something that the town's been consistent about doing. It's always been, try to fix just this year, just get by this.
Right,
Okay?
right.
And we'll worry about that later.
Right.
And I think we've all got a different attitude about that. Do we have to worry about later now because it's happening now?
that's what I
Okay.
saw when I was at the first meeting, that was the issue, and I thought that was great. That's how I got here.
Right, and I think
Yeah.
it's a good tactic to have in the future going right along, to show every consequence, what's it gonna be for the next 5 years, where is that gonna lead you?
Well,
Or not lead you.
I think Mr. Paulson put it, perfectly several years ago. He said, you can only kick the can so far, and it's hit the wall. And we all realize that now, but we have to also realize the economic climate of our town. You have to be a bit, I'm not sure the word I'm looking for, but you have to realize that people are not making or do not have the income that the people down the Cape, as you say, have, you know, for an $80 dump. I mean,
No, but-
we're a working class, middle income community, and that's what we are. And
But
we always pay our bills and we always step up to the plate. But we don't kill people in the mix of it.
I'm not trying to do that.
We're not
actually.
organized as efficiently as we could be as a town.
No, we haven't been, but we certainly could be more organized. I agree.
See, this is where the 5-year plan comes in. This is where we may be different. I fully understand that.
I know you do.
The question you have, in my view, is if that's the situation you have, what are you going to do to change the situation? And the way to change the situation is you need to find ways to build things and you know, if we're limited with the taxes and we want to do the 300 million, I mean, we want to do the 3 million, we don't want to cut it, because right now we're going to cut it from people who very much need it. We don't have any choice. If we're going to pay our bills, we're going to cut that money. If you want to offset it with taxes, then you have to see $300 million worth of new construction go up in this town.
Get us down to 3 million, please.
300 million.
300 million.
300 million is how much you need. So where are we going to get it?
You work on it this week, Jeff.
No,
I'm with you, babe. I'm with you.
Okay, well, I just want to make sure that when you and I are on the same, because actually,
I'm on the same page, but I do not want to,
neither do I, but I want 300 million worth
I
of new
don't
construction.
want to crucify
Something.
people. And
That's my point.
I don't want to tie the hands of the administration either. I want-
Like 300 million.
I don't know, I think that
construction, too.
they're doing an awful hard job. I don't know how they do
They do.
it. So,
You're also gonna have to understand, we've had a change in the governor and the party. Therefore, we don't know which way the formulas may change.
That's-
We don't know what's gonna happen.
Oh, it's going to be
We
bad.
don't know whether or not the new governor may actually, when they say we're gonna get $300 million to Chapter 90, we actually get 300 million instead of 100 to 150. Everything's in flux right now.
yeah.
Every department head basically is new, coming in shortly. And
No, but that's a good discussion to have. I'm just saying kind of
No,
my
I
reference
mean-
point of how great I thought that 5-year plan was.
It
I would
is.
hate to see it disappear.
It's something that the board actually pushed for
Yeah.
early. But the bottom line is, anything that comes before you or comes before us, I ask the question, it's fine and dandy, nice to do, what is it gonna cost us? Any grant, any program we do.
Right.
And the board's already gone on record with the stormwater management plan. I will not,
There's still more.
I will not sit there and vote for anything unless they pay for it.
Yeah.
We
Okay,
can't do
I
it
just-
anymore.
That was kind of what the gist of my questions is how we, as a finance committee, because we're faced with that, and obviously we represent various aspects of the towns, we should, it's great. And,
You represent all the financial aspects of the town,
Right.
period.
Okay, so we've talked about that, and like I said, we're gonna bring these, I did read all your emails, so I tried to bring everything together, what you guys asked for. Unfortunately, you know, we didn't get everything, because the town administrator not being here, we can't talk about everything we wanted to talk about. However, somebody also asked about updates to the FinCom website. Okay, obviously, the whole site was broken today.
Wouldn't do anything with that one.
You're right, Bonnie.
She's not going to let it go. She is not going to let it go.
Company that runs the server, they went down.
Oh,
And what
okay.
happened was, everything has to go back in queue that's in that server.
Okay.
It serves a whole bunch of people. So you get that stupid black screen.
Well, that's what happened.
We finally got caught. It's been going for about 45 minutes at least, maybe an hour.
So, who maintains the site? So we have, I mean, not the site, but our FinCom page, that's,
We would have to,
get back over here.
they run a little different because they're basically the, part of the legislative branch. So I don't know if they have to go through, Derek or.
I thought Derek said it was his.
For their request for medical services, all departments have to go through Derek. But this particular group, that's planning board, already did.
I mean, I don't know, I don't even know what's on there. Somebody said there's some old reports and stuff on there. Is that what's up on the page now?
Bonnie, I asked the question, and if you look at the Wareham, Massachusetts webpage, under Finance Committee, there are a number of additional links that are in there. There's a town meeting webpage, there are financial reports. You can click on each one of those. If you click on financial reports, you're back in 2012 is the latest financial report. If you click on excise taxes, you get a great report from 2009, nothing beyond that. And if you look at this, there's a very good one on free cash analysis.
Is it?
Yeah, it's great. It doesn't include anything since 2008. So we really need to either remove those links or put current information in here.
Okay. So we should meet with some, I mean, who knows a lot about web building? Do you know a lot about web building and what you think you'd
I
like to
don't
see
know,
up
but I
there?
know when I click on it, one of the
useless.
advantages of the site being down is nobody can look back and see how bad this is. However,
Unfortunately, we fixed that.
we fixed it, and we need to fix this also.
What happens with, just so you understand, what happens with the website, basically, unfortunately for Bonnie, the chair of the committees is supposed to monitor their website and notify the town there's issues, make sure that any new reports, whatever, are submitted, and submitted to Matt, to update as well.
Oh,
And
goody.
it's every chair's responsibility to do just that.
Well, nobody told
Nobody
me.
told anybody that.
It's always been that way. It's always been that way, but unfortunately, there's a lack of communication.
Is it in the unwritten book?
No, it should actually be in that booklet that they handed out to everybody, how to run a committee, the volunteer handbook. Which I'm sure nobody's read.
Probably in the thing that Derek gave us.
Yeah, the thing that nobody read.
Well, I
Okay,
guess I'll
so
have to
I
take a
would
look at it.
recommend that whatever you want to do, just send it to Derek, and he will then forward it to Matt, and Matt will put it in as he can.
Okay.
But he does that, I know the committees that I've worked with and stuff, when I send stuff, it gets done that way. It's never been a problem. You'll find probably half the committees have stuff that could be 10 years old up on the site still.
Okay.
It's
Well,
not
I
a-
mean, we want
Thanks for
to
letting us know.
educate people, so.
Yeah,
I
that's
don't know,
what it's
maybe you
for.
and I, David could sit down and see what really nice should be up there. I mean, we might want to put up our glossary of terms so people
would be
can
good.
start educating
That is on
themselves.
there.
It is on there,
Is it up to
really?
date?
As of last year. I don't think it's the latest.
That's when it was initiated.
That's when it was started. But I'll give you some recommendations, and Bonnie, perhaps we can meet offline and just go over
Okay?
this. It's not a violation of open meeting for two of us
No,
to
definitely not.
look at the
Okay.
webpage.
You can set up a little subcommittee, which basically is responsible for making sure the web is updated. And
I
for
make
all
a
of us.
motion to do that.
Okay. then. All right, so we're gonna work on the website and bring that up so we can start educating the public a little bit. And also, as we go into that, I did talk to Madam Moderator about possibly doing a workshop. One of the members had asked about, writing some of the articles, how the explanations came to us or didn't come to us prior to our vote. All right, so as we get, past the initial parts of, and actually getting a warrant, what Madam Moderator explained to me is that not everybody uses the form that she was nice enough to come up with a couple of years ago. So they don't complete the form out along with the explanation and things like that. But I think we need to make a pretty fast and hard rule that we're not gonna vote on something if we're not presented a complete explanation to something. We can just abstain and not take a vote on it at all, if that's what we choose to do. There's been a lot of discussion over the last couple of years over, how the motions are made and how we take our vote. And every year, people have their own opinion about, should it be favorable action, should it be not favorable action, should it be, I've never liked the whole, indefinite postponement. That is like telling the people that come up with these articles and really, really think about something that you have absolutely no respect for anything that they just did.
Right.
Okay? To just say, I don't ever want to look at it again. And we will certainly have these discussions again, I'm sure. And whatever is the majority of the committee on how you want to take these votes, we'll do that. I mean, I'm not steadfast on it. I just always felt that it should be presented in the positive manner in which the motion was made. And then if you chose to not agree with that, then it's a negative vote. But we'll talk about that.
I thought what you're saying then is, if the committee agrees, X number of committees say, yes, the town should accept this motion as written, Y number say, no, they should
Yeah.
not.
Well, some people don't like
Is
the whole,
that
like,
allowed, Madam Moderator? Or is it certain language, I mean, because the language is a tad archaic.
Every town does it differently. You know, it depends on tradition of the town. There's a theory that if something goes on the warrant, it's put there because those who put it on the warrant generally support it. And that's why generally you have a favorable motion. When you have a favorable motion, you take a vote and it might be 6-0. It's because two people don't feel that they support it. But that's where the favorable comes in. You generally don't put something on the warrant if you don't support it. It shouldn't be on there if you don't think it's in the best interest of the town or it's something that needs to be there. That's why a lot of towns, when the selectmen are putting together their warrant, will have a full discussion of the warrant articles, and something we've been working to, and actually this year for the first time our board did talk about the warrant articles before they put them on the warrant. And years ago, that's what they used to do. They would have a full discussion about the warrant article, and if it wasn't something that they felt financially the town could afford or it wasn't in the best interest, they didn't put it on the warrant. Then we went through a period of time that everything went on the warrant, and the Board of Selectmen never saw the warrant until the night it closed, and they never talked about the warrant articles until after it closed. So I think we're working towards a better method of doing it, that the Board of Selectmen are talking about their warrant articles before they put them on. So when they come to you and they go on the warrant, they're on there because they should be on there. And that's where, when you see a favorable motion, a vote for favorable vote, it's because that warrant article is important to be on that warrant. You have some other towns that do it differently, and their motion would be the Finance Committee does not support this article because they don't feel from a financial perspective that they can support it. And then the Finance Committee would give their reason why. So there's different ways of doing it. I'm going to try to work on doing, in order to cut town meeting and make it shorter, I'm trying to find ways that we can expedite things. And what I'd like to do is to do a booklet that we call Protocol for Town Meeting, which would explain what I usually take 15 or 20 minutes to explain, and put it in a booklet form that people can pick up and have, and then I don't have to stand up there for 15 minutes. So I've been looking at different towns to see what they do. So hopefully, you know, after the holidays, I'll come up maybe and give you some suggestions as to how other Finance Committee, how they might say, you know, the Finance Committee is in favor of this because, or the Finance Committee does not support this because we don't have the money to do it. So, I mean, there's different ways. Every town is different, and it's very interesting when you do go to other town meetings and you watch and see, and there's no standard of everything fits all. So it just depends on tradition. It depends upon the town and how it operates and how the Board of Selectmen put their warrant articles on.
I think the one thing that is so confusing, every year we hear this, the Finance Committee votes favorable action 2-4-1. Well, how can you vote favorable action if 4 of you voted against it.
Right.
That doesn't make it clear.
It's hard, and that's why sometimes I tell people it takes you 15 years to go to town meeting before you understand it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the things that's very difficult for people to understand. And, maybe that's one of my failures, that maybe I don't explain that, when I ask for the FinCom vote or ask for the Board of Selectmen vote, and you have a vote such as that, or whether the FinCom in their explanation, might say only 4 people voted in favor of it because.
We usually do.
We're
We usually
negative
do.
because.
See, that what you just said about we're looking at it from a financial view. We're not questioning whether it should be on the warrant or not. It's on there, and we have to say, from a financial viewpoint, what does it mean? Then to say that 6 of us say, yes, the town should support this, 4 of us say, no, it shouldn't, it starts to become very clear to the town that this is, obviously there's a difference. Or 2 say yes, and
Further study.
the rest say no, then it really is clear that we're saying, and then our explanation is there. I know what you're saying from whether it should be on the warrant or not, but it's funny, when all the ones that were before us, we weren't arguing that. We were trying to figure out financially what we were supposed to do. There are a couple of them you ask, why is this even before the finance committee, when it would appear that they had like no financial impact at all, and those are the ones that some of the people sponsored.
Right.
So
And sometimes what in the past, the finance committees have done in the past, if you have a split vote, then you have a minority
Report.
opinion
We
right
did,
underneath,
yeah.
and you print both of
We
them.
did.
We did.
4 of them were in favor of it because, and then the other 5.
yeah, but we don't
opposed
say
it
yes or
because.
no, and I think that's clearer, and that's what you were trying to do. It went away over you weren't there for the second night, but we were
Oh.
struggling on trying to do it.
It's okay. I was watching.
No,
you
it
guys
just
on
felt
TV.
awkward.
Yeah. It is awkward.
It doesn't
It is
feel
awkward.
like, especially having been privy to the discussion that goes on, where you know that so-and-so made some good points negative, and so-and-so made some good points positive, and this is what we decided as a team.
And that's part of when you do your explanation, when you write your explanation. It should be written from a financial perspective, that the finance committee supports this because, or the finance committee does
Doesn't
not support it
Mhm.
because.
Yeah.
And again, I'll try to get a hold of some other towns' reports and maybe share them with you and see what they give, at their town meetings.
would
I
be
think it will
good.
give you some different ideas.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
Too, the charter says that we report on every article. And we've had that discussion too, of, does it have a financial impact? And when you look at it on the surface, maybe it does or it doesn't. But I think every article, every policy change, every bylaw, everything has a financial impact, one way or the other, okay? Maybe we don't think that, personally, that, it seems pretty minor, if somebody puts a shed so many feet from a
From the
fence.
edge, yeah.
Exactly. And we're sitting here going, how does that have a financial impact? Well, I don't know, but somewhere along the line, it's gonna impact somebody. So,
Yeah,
but we will-
and I think in your explanations, you can get around that by saying, from a financial perspective, the finance committee doesn't have an opinion on this, but we support the article as presented, or something like that.
So we'll definitely get together after the holidays and work on
Yeah,
that as we
'cause
get, closer to town meeting, definitely, for that. Okay, I'm gonna move on to liaison reports, and Tom Worthen wanted to give us, the information of what he found or what he learned at the Finance Committee's annual meeting.
David Hurd and I braved the rain and the winds and went to Franklin for the Association of Town Finance Committee's annual meeting. And I came away with 2 things. First of all, we had a budgeting 101 presented by the town administrator of Northborough, and it was outstanding. If anybody wants to see how a budget should be put together and presented, not only for the finance committee, but for everybody in the town, and to be able to access it online, they ought to check Northborough's website. And it's BOROUF, not,
B-O what?
BOROUGH, isn't it?
yeah, it's a rough not an O-R-O.
Instead of B-O-R-O, it's B-O-U,
Northborough,
whatever.
O-U-G-H.
I-R engineer, I don't know how to spell.
And the other thing was relevant to the discussion we had on the budget, is some software put out by a firm called VizGov. And I'm just going to give you the handout. It's designed to do more than I think it needs to, but it's a review. It takes the budget and looks back 5 years and out 5 years by major segment. And if you look at the on the front page, the lower right-hand side, it gives you an idea of the presentation. Now, this presentation here was based on somebody who pays a $6,000 tax bill and wants to look up and see how that $6,000 is spent. And the diagram on the right-hand side of all those segments, you can see under schools is 55,000, and then it will take her 6,000 over 55,000 and break it into the various segments, and each of those blocks is a part of the school budget, as an example. And it costs $3,000 to buy this software, and it's maintained by the company that puts it out. So I looked at it and I thought it would be worthwhile to have Derek review it, because it would make his life a lot easier, and it would also make anybody going into town meeting to be able to see how the budget is and how it's broken down and where it's expected to go, so that will result in fewer questions and fewer challenges and the strength of the budget plan. So I would encourage you to go to their website and look at it, and I believe you can call up the Arlington budget and see it at work. And for $3,000, it appeared to be a good value where they're doing it. Now, the question is whether we could go back and pull up the last 5 years' records to provide them, and we would have to encourage them. It would encourage us to look out 5 years as well. But it will make a easier digestive process for anybody in the town. I'm not suggesting that they look up their own, but they could. You can call it up and look up the whole town and see how that budget is broken down. And the clam chowder was pretty good.
Don't tell that to the guys at the lobster
But
pot.
I would definitely recommend, just to go for that one Northborough meeting, the whole committee would have been well served in terms of what our expectations should be. And the guy the town administrator who presented it said, it took 4 or 5 years to get to the point where it runs the way it runs, but their town meetings are short. Nobody ever questions the budget, because it's all there and it's very comprehensive. There's a lot more emphasis on headcount by department, past, current, and future.
Cool. David, what did you bring back for us?
I think I'll pass at the present time. I think this was appeared to be a very effective tool at a reasonable cost, and something that we should definitely, the town should definitely look at. I think it's something that would be of interest to any concerned taxpayer in town, as well as the various departments. It gives a very graphical presentation of the town finances.
Everybody likes the pretty pictures. It just reminds me of that dollar bill thing I had to watch 20,000 times over and over again. That's okay.
That was just 1 year you kept putting up.
Well, no, it just seemed like it lasted forever. That's all right.
We need some pretty pictures for finances.
Yeah,
We do.
yeah, we do.
We
Well,
do.
it does. I mean, people are visual people, and you put it out there, and it's simple to understand, and, you know, the whole pie charts and all that.
It takes all, it's transparent, and
Yeah.
it takes all the questions away.
Numbers are hard. People don't like numbers. I've learned that. All right. Huh? Ellis does. Numbers are our friend. Hi, Ellis. They are.
Yeah, so you have to do something with them. Not just throw them.
I like numbers. I work with numbers all day. Numbers are fun, but
You need pictures.
yeah, well, people like pictures. It's just, it's good to have pictures to go with your numbers. That's
Yes.
all. All right, so any other liaison reports? Come forward, madam. Keep hitting my mic, I'm gonna get yelled at.
Since you are a legislative body, I just want to let you know, one of the hot buttons that's going around in the state now is electronic voting at town meeting. I will be having the Elvis Committee, which is the electronic, and I can't remember what the L stands for, voting instantly committee, come to my Southeast Mass Moderators meeting in February. So I hope after February I will have a full report for you on electronic voting, and it's very interesting. It's wonderful. I've been to a couple of town meetings that have had it. It changes the whole dynamics of town meeting, and so I hope to have a lot more information for you and see if we can't get some interest. I know financially we're in pretty tough shape, but it's a great way to go. And so I'm going to be having the Wayland Committee coming. There are 3 or 4 towns that are using it now, but it's going to start taking off. I've had 3 or 4 calls this week from town clerks in other towns asking for information. And so it's becoming something that's going to generate a lot of interest. So I think you're going to see that's going to be the way it's going to be going. So I'm excited about having the Elvis Committee coming and talking to us. They've been using it for 3 years now. It works really well for them, and it really brings out the people because they're not intimidated by having to raise their hand.
There.
So,
Can we vote from home?
you know, actually that you say that, Tom, one moderator has started to allow texting of questions from home. So technology is making its way. The actual voting is difficult because you have to be assured that the person on the other end of the technology
Isn't the dog.
exactly is an actual registered voter. So the technology isn't quite there yet. But we've been watching this one town that's allowing people to text a question in about an article, especially if it's being televised and people are watching it from home. So the technology is changing and it is coming, and so I'm really excited about the electronic voting, though. I've watched it in action in 2 towns, and the difference is being whether you have open town meeting or representative, because with the representative town meeting, you know exactly how many handouts that you need. So there's no question. But when you have an open town meeting, do you only need 100? Or at the town meeting I was at last week where you would have needed 1,600 handouts. Wow. So they were expecting 2,500 voters to attend that town meeting, and the moderator asked a couple of moderators to come up and take some overflow rooms for them. So, when you have an open town meeting, if you're going to have something that's of controversy and you go from only having 300 voters to 15 or 1,600, it's very hard to tell how many handsets you need and to plan for that. But it's coming, and I'm excited about it. I think it's really going to change town meeting if you can vote electronically.
The handout is wireless, I assume.
It is wireless. It requires the installation of a receiver in the room, and then it's just a small handheld. You have generally 30 seconds to make a decision. You can change your vote anytime within that 30 seconds, and then the count is instantaneously. There's never a question on the count.
Is this something that a company would own and lease to the various towns, so the town would not have to own all the equipment
There are different
themselves?
ways of doing it, Mr. Hurd. Yes, you could lease it. and/or you could buy outright. One of the towns has bought outright because they have a representative town government, so that they know exactly how many handsets they needed, and for them, it was worth the investment because that's never going to change. And they've installed the receiver and they bought a certain number. I was hoping that we could get in on the free demonstration, but so many towns have asked that they've now stopped doing that. But I was hopeful that we might try it out for free, but that's not going to happen. They've had so many requests that they're not doing it anymore. But it's very interesting. Very interesting, and I really would like to see the town take an interest in maybe exploring it a little more. So, after February, I have a lot more information for you.
I just got this funny note of Madam Moderator standing up there, and now we're going to take our questions from Twitter, and
It's like, and I'm so bad at that, so, it's like, okay.
I think we're in that age now.
All right, we're gonna
And
tweet.
then trying to read, what does this LOL mean?
Excuse me, can
I just found that out a week
Yeah.
ago.
My wife just found a book.
So it's, but it's exciting. I think the electronic voting, you're going to see it really start taking off in the next year, year and a half, and a lot more towns are going to jump right on board with it. It makes a huge difference in the way people vote, in the way the votes are tallied. It's instantaneous, there's no question.
Sounds like a
Yeah,
win-win
I
situation.
mean,
Yeah.
it's just a win-win, yeah.
It is. It's. I think. I've got to look for a grant because I really would like to see this town.
It's
I
gonna
think we would
become an
have-
app. You don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, I know.
Seriously.
I really think that
Yeah, you're right. That'll
we
be
would
the
see a
next
much
thing.
better turnout if people felt that they weren't being watched in how they vote.
Yeah.
I agree with you 100%.
I'll bet there's more money in a company just owning it and leasing it out.
I would think they would lease it.
Yeah.
I'd lease it.
To start with.
No, they think about
Let's get a truck and we'll get, we'll buy a bunch of things and we'll just go town to town with this. They schedule the town meetings.
The only issue is New England is the only place that does this, and we all do it in April.
That's true.
So you have a
Yeah.
seasonality factor.
Yeah, the Moderators Association looked into that particular thought, buying sets and letting towns use them, but because all the town meetings fall the same week.
Same week,
it's
yeah.
impossible to
Yeah,
have.
yeah. All right, any other unanticipated business? What the heck is that? Oh, okay. It's scaring me. All right, approval of meeting minutes for October 1st. Did we read them all before the email crashed?
No, we were going to read them today.
I have one.
Do we have a
Go
copy?
ahead.
I don't have copies.
Do you have a correction?
Yes, on page 5. Well, I think it's just like typo. It's your 5th paragraph.
I'm sorry.
Beneficiaries of the dam.
You don't have it.
Whereabouts?
5th paragraph down.
5th?
Starting with Ms. Langen.
Okay.
Okay, cranberry growers are the beneficiaries of the dam.
Yep. Oh, I see.
Okay. Gotcha. Spell check didn't get that one, huh? Okay.
Here's a word.
Yeah. Good
Dominic's
call.
Dam.
That's the only thing I found, yeah.
Thank you.
Any other corrections? I entertain a motion for approval of the meeting minutes as edited or corrected for October 1st, 2014.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain?
I'm abstaining, I haven't read them.
Okay. I also have approval of meeting minutes for October the 27th.
That was the night.
Yes,
That was brief.
brief. Extraordinarily brief. They were all set?
So moved, Madam Chair.
Motion to accept the minutes of October 27th. Have a second? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained?
Yeah, that one was just yes or no up or down.
You have to sign those, you understand that, right? That's
I
your.
wonder, I thought you
that's
were
your-
trying to educate me.
No, that's your other job, is to sign those.
Okay.
Okay. So our next meeting, we said we're going to meet on the 7th, is that what we said, January the 7th?
2015.
At 6:30 right here. Alrighty. I am meeting tomorrow with the appointing committee on the two applicants. Mr. Bailey, you did meet. Mr. Pigeon, you did not meet. I gave everybody Mr. Pigeon's letter and application. He has only been in town here since July of 2014. When I asked him why he chose Wareham, he just fell absolutely in love with the house out on Trout Farm Way, and he thought this was the nicest seaside community he had ever seen, and this is where he landed. Okay? He has been in town government in the town of Stoughton for 15 years, 9 years on their finance committee. They have a maximum of 9 years is their term limit. See, they're much more flexible than they are around here, Donna. We'd be here for like centuries if we did that. And he served all 9 of those years, 8 as their chairperson, okay? But they have they're a different form of government. There's elected, there were 15 members.
Mhm.
It's a 16-member committee. And they're elected according to precinct.
Right.
So it's a
they're-
much bigger body
Yeah.
than what we're used to here. And he's got quite an extensive background in, with several different companies in the area as well. So we're gonna be meeting tomorrow at 9 AM here to review those applications and make a selection with those. Does anybody have any comments on the 2 applicants?
Are we gonna vote as a committee as who we would like to?
There has never really been a vote because you really don't have a vote.
No, I'm talking about, usually we voted on who we liked,
I
and
don't
then
think there's ever been
then
an
the
official
appointing,
vote.
then I took it to the committee when I was there.
I
I
don't know
always
if there
took
was
the,
ever an official vote, I'm sorry.
was there?
No, it only goes to the,
Sometimes I think in the past.
There was,
There was a vote of who they
Yeah.
would prefer.
yeah.
And then,
A recommendation is basically what it is, a recommendation.
Okay.
yeah.
I would certainly entertain any recommendation. Jeff, go ahead, you have something to say.
Hmm?
You have something to say?
I was gonna recommend,
Okay, go ahead.
we can have a vote. I recommend that, we, first, I wanna get your name right.
Mr. Ellis.
Ellis.
Yeah, I don't have it here. What am I doing? Anyway,
Actually, his first name is Ellis, his last
Ellis.
name is Bailey.
all
Ellis
right,
Bailey.
got it.
It's
That's-
confusing.
So, I recommend that.
I'll second that.
If it-
Okay. And, all right,
Aye.
gonna vote?
Any other opinions?
I feel,
I-
I am in favor of Mr. Bailey because he's made an appearance here. And he's
Well,
come before us and,
I like his numbers background.
well,
We need,
I think they're both excellent candidates.
yes, actually,
Yeah, I think they're both excellent candidates,
Right.
but I do like the fact that he's here.
Okay.
Are we going for 2 members, or?
Which
No,
is
there was
one.
one available
Just one
now.
open.
There's an opening now, which is to fill the spot that the other Jeff vacated. And then in July 1st, there will be at least 2 more openings on this
Dominic.
committee.
Dominic and Bonnie's.
Yes.
So, no, Dominic and Bonnie's.
Donnie, oh.
Yeah. Dominic and I have to officially retire. Per-
They've
You're
served,
at the end
Charter.
of, you,
They've done
you
2
flamed
terms.
out? or-
yes, she's flamed out.
Oh, no.
Per charter, we have to,
Take a year
take
off.
a year off.
Okay.
So that's, all right.
I make a motion that we adjourn.
Second.
Okay, we're good with that. We've got our
Yeah, that
meeting
was
date.
quick.
Okay, adjourn. All those in favor of adjournment? My ears are
Aye.
popping.
Aye.
Aye. Abstain? Oh, okay. Adjourn.